Hi, welcome back. Now we have our line drawing already drawn, and I'm just going to quickly pick a color of my choice for the jacket, and I will pick my pencil, the traditional pencil, and start to trace the outline of my jacket. Now what this does for me is it helps me make sure that my jacket is well painted. I don't have to start painting from the scratch. I'm just going to do is, once I am done tracing the outline, making sure there's no breakage, I would then fill. So for now, I'm concentrating on tracing the outline and making sure there is no breakage in my lines. It is very important that you make sure there's no breakage. Now I go all the way to the trouser and now to the bottom of my trouser. Now making sure there's no breakage. You can see I made a mistake there and I had to correct it. That's because my line did not fall, my tracing did not fall on the line drawing precisely. Now that is a very huge lesson for you all. You must make sure that your lines fall exactly on the line drawing that you have there, while still making sure that your lines, your tracing lines, has no breakage. If it does have breakage, it will not fill. It will spill and fill your entire work surface. You don't want to have that. That can be really disappointing. Now from here, I fill here up to exclude that part from getting filled, and I trace that up to exclude it from getting filled. I go all the way to the shoulder and I go to the lapel and connect it back to where I started from, which is from the lapel as well. Then I come to the belt area and I exclude that as well, so that when I fill, it won't fill that part, just like I just did. I select my fill tool and I fill. The next thing I'm going to be doing is I'll pick white, create a new layer, and then trace with white color. The same traditional pencil, trace with white color, and it goes all the way around, and I will fill as well. So unlike manual where you have to paint everything manually, you can actually just trace the outline in digital and just fill. This is not going to be a problem for those who have already taken the beginners illustration class, digital illustration class for beginners. Now the next thing I'm going to do after this is I am going to zoom in and make sure that all my drawings are well done and it's precise. I am also going to go ahead to paint the shade for my shirt. This time around I'm using ash color for the shade, and the brush I'm using is soft airbrush. I'm going to be cleaning the unwanted parts of my drawing for the shade of my shirt, which I just did. Zoom into the color and I do that. I'm going to be moving forward by selecting the color of my jacket, because that's the same color my bow tie would have. So I pick the color picker brush tool, and then I select the color, and then I use my traditional pencil to trace it, just the same way I did for the jacket and the shirt. Trace it, the outline, and once I am done with that, I simply click on my fill tool and I fill. You can see that we have our bow tie already. Isn't it nice? Yes. Going forward, the next step I would want to take is to create a new layer to create shade for my jacket, because I must give it form. It's looking flat right now, so I create a new layer, make it multiply, select my soft airbrush, and use the same color of the jacket to paint my shade on the multiply layer. What the multiply layer does is, whatever color I paint with on the multiply layer automatically converts it to the darker version of that color. And now here I use my shade to put shades on both sides of my drawing. On the sides, just on the sides, using soft airbrush. I'm using the soft airbrush to paint my shade on the sides. That is very important to note. And then I repeat it on the other side as well. Put shade on both sides, on the edges precisely. Again, on the edges on both sides. Now you can see that I'm allowing my shade to spill out. That's because I want it to blend. I would use my eraser to clean that up and make it neat eventually. That's what I just started doing. Select my eraser and I erase the unwanted parts of my shade. The ones that fall outside, I erase them all. That way you won't even know that there was a spillage at all from the scratch, because everything is just going to be well put together and it's looking nice. Now the importance of shade is that your work will now start having shape and form, because without a shade it looks flat. But with the shade now, you can see that it's beginning to take form and it looks like a proper drawing, not just something a child drew and just painted flat. It's going to have form, it's going to have interaction of light and shade, just with the introduction of shade and outline. Don't forget, the layer where we are painting this shade, we made that layer multiply by going to the blending option of that layer and clicking on multiply. For the illustrators in the house, I am pretty sure that you understand this, and if you have not been doing it before, this is the hack right here. So it is very simple, it is straightforward, and you can try it. So this is me now, just simply erasing the part of my shade for the lapel that I just drew that I do not want, the overlapping part of the lapel shade that I do not want. And then I continue to make sure that I go around and check if it is fine. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I want to make sure that my work is neat. I'm going to go ahead and start creating shade for the pants, yeah, or for the trouser or the pants as you choose to call it. Now the next thing is, again, you can see that I'm putting shades on only the sides. I'm putting shades on only the side, and this helps me give form to my drawing. It helps me give form to my drawing. Please pay attention to this particular little information, this very small piece of information. It is very important that you pay attention to it. Your shades on the side, your shades on the side, and every other thing in between. So yeah, I am concentrating on the side mostly. If you've seen from what we've been doing so far, it's just been majorly on the side. I pick my eraser and I clean off the unwanted part. The reason why I'm cleaning off the unwanted part here, and it's not affecting my previous drawing, my previous shade for the jacket, is because I created a new layer for the shade of the pants. That is why it's not affecting it. For those who have taken our beginners class, you would understand what is going on here. For those who haven't, please reach out to us so that you can purchase our beginners illustration pack. We have almost 33 videos in that pack, and then you can learn a lot from it. It is totally affordable, pocket friendly, but that's not the focus here. Now I am simply cleaning out the parts of my shade that I do not want, and I'm just going to do that until I go all the way around and I'm sure that there's no single residue left. I reduce my eraser size so that I can reach into those tiny parts of the crouch, and there we have it. I have painted the shade of my jacket and the pants. Now I would also go up there and use the same software brush to paint shade for my lapel, and I do that on both sides, giving the lapel form, because it was looking flat, giving the lapel form by putting shade on the edge as well. That would help it look rounded and not flat. So I erase the excesses from the sides and I simply tuck it in, and that's it. The next thing I'm going to be doing after erasing this is going to be very, very interesting. I reduce the opacity of my eraser, my soft eraser, and the size of my soft eraser, and I start using it to create space by clicking on the shade to create space for where I am going to put my light interaction. Yes, that is what I do next. And I am going to do that all the way round on all sides of my drawing, especially those places that I have put shade. And you'll see the importance of this going forward. You see the importance of this particular thing I'm doing going forward. Don't forget, I'm using the soft airbrush, which reduced opacity and reduced size so that it doesn't clean out my shade. It's just me creating space for where I am going to be throwing light on the edges eventually. I use a technique called the bouncing light technique, and this helps me make my illustration look rounded. It is a trick and hack that I'm just going to be showing to you and sharing with you. All the way on the edges, all the way. So now I use the soft eraser to also shape my shade so that it blends in properly. The next thing I'm going to do is select my pencil, the traditional pencil, and reduce the opacity so that it can act like a soft airbrush, so I can use it for shading. And that is what I use for the bow tie. I did that because the bow tie is quite small and the airbrush is quite fat, so my pencil can also act like a soft airbrush by simply reducing the opacity of the pencil. And then I pick my eraser, I add the eraser to clean out the edges, and I use my soft eraser as well to put the bouncing light erased part. It's as simple as that, and it comes together just very simply, just like that. Yeah. So having done that, I am going to go to the layer where I painted the shirt, the white color for the shirt, pick my pencil and pick the white color, and then simply trace around and feel for the cuffs of my shirt, and that brings it together. Yes. So next, I am just going to select my jacket color, create a new layer on top of the jacket under the multiply layer for the shade, and select the jacket color and select my soft airbrush, which I am going to use for the light. Now, what I do with that layer where I'm painting the light is I go to the blending option and I make it screen or add. The blending option is supposed to be normal by default, but I select screen or add. So now I am placing light in those areas where light did not get when we're shading. So it's going to create an interaction of light and shade. This is the simple trick we use to paint in illustration, in digital illustration. It also applies to digital paintings to have interaction of light and shade. So what we do is we create a new layer, and then we select the blending option to be add or screen. So when it is add or screen, whatever you're painting on that layer automatically becomes a lighter version of your selected color, and that's what I'm doing right now. I'm simply reducing the size of my soft airbrush so that I can paint precise areas of my illustration. So then I create a new layer again. If I want more light and interaction of more light, I can keep creating new layers of screen and add. You see, now this is another lighter, a stronger light, so I have to create another layer for that and select a lighter version of my color to do this. You can see the way it's interacting with each other. So it is not magic, it is just understanding how to manipulate and work around the functions of your app. It is simple. It is all there staring at you. It has always been staring at you, trust me. So that is me picking my pencil, so, that can also act like a soft airbrush. Don't forget I told you that if you reduce the opacity of your pencil, right, it can act like soft airbrush. You can also use it to paint shade instead of just tiny lines, and that's what I'm doing. Because those areas where I erased are quite tiny, that is why I'm using pencil right now, so you can reach those pretty tiny parts and still look like I used soft airbrush. So I'm doing that on the edges all around. That's the trick, trust me. It's just a simple arc. It works all the time. I can bet that a lot of you have not tried this out before, but if you haven't, trust me, this is the best time to try it out. You'll find it very interesting, and you probably would continue using it for the rest of your creative life. So let's go. So I still keep putting it on the edges. Yes, just on the edges, and that will be it. Now here comes the interesting part. I go to my brush library and I select the zipper brush. I'm using the Sketchbook AUTODESK Pro. I select the zipper brush, reduce the size, leave the opacity at 100, and then I start using it to outline the parts where I want my embellishment to be. So, and that's basically what I'm going to be doing. Now I am trying to highlight the edges of my lapel, yes, with that particular brush. You see, it's not looking like zipper anymore because I've reduced the size. I'm just using that to depict where I want my embellishment. And we're going to be doing something really interesting going forward. We're going to be doing something very, very, very interesting going forward. So I also would go back to the edges of my jacket all around because I want my embellishment there. Don't forget, we're trying to illustrate an embellished jacket, yeah, for stylish men, so for fashion forward men. So here, this is the main part of this illustration. So then I go to the other side and I do the same thing all around with so much precision. If I make any mistake, I would have to go back. So I zoom in to achieve precision. That is what I advise you do all the time, achieve precision. So I zoom in all the way, you see that, all the way to achieve precision. And then I will now go to the interesting part, which is where we are going to be creating details on the lapel itself, the embellishment on the lapel. And I zoom in again to make sure that I am in total control of my creative space, so that I do not end up making unwanted mistakes. Here we go, on one side of the lapel, and I'm going to make sure that whatever I'm doing on this left side, I would repeat on the right side, which is what I'm just going to go ahead to do right now. So I go to the second side, and then I try to replicate the same embellishment. You can see how simple it is. Don't forget, we're using the zipper detail. We're using the zipper detail. If you are using the sketchbook Autodesk, the one that's available on iOS App Store or the Android Play Store, you can also import. If you have the full version, the paid version, you can import your own brush, your embellishment brush, and use it just the way I am using this. If you're using Procreate, you can create your own brush or import this same brush and then use it the same way I am using it. And then for the pocket detail, I use the same brush to create those details on both sides, and then I draw it all the way up. This is going to turn out really beautiful. I can feel it in my spirit. Okay, yeah, so excited about this. And then I zoom in again. Zooming in is the key to having precision and details. Yeah, so when you have exquisite details like this, you have to really zoom in to achieve precision. Yeah, on both sides. So I am just going to follow my line drawing. If you can see clearly, you'll realize that I already drew the pattern for my design, for my embellishment design, with the pencil. Yeah, so it serves as a guide. Now I move to the other side and I repeat the same steps using the guide of the pencil drawing that I have already drawn from the scratch. On the right side, now I'm not zooming in too much so that I can see what it looks like on this side. You see, I'm making sure that the details are replicable on both sides. That is very key. The details should be replicable. But for you, you can decide not to make them replicable. If you're creating your own designs, well, you are in charge creatively. So do what works for you. And again, I would always encourage people to get creative. You don't have to paint exactly what is being painted in this tutorial. You can try yours out. So all the way down, I'm still going to put some on the jacket, on the jacket sleeve. Yeah, which is what I'm just going to go ahead to do right away. I'll put some details on the embellishment on the jacket sleeve. Oh my god, it looks so classy. Yeah, on the jacket sleeve, all the way there. So it's going to creep to the top and then become sparse as it goes to the top. It becomes quite sparse as it goes to the top. Yeah, there we go, all the way to the top. Yeah, all the way to the top. And then I try to repeat the same thing on the other side of the sleeve, the left sleeve. There we go, all the way to the top. I would have to do a reality check. I would have to see if they look replicable. Yes, that is me now making it look replicable. Yeah, and then I repeat it on both sides all the way to the top. Don't forget, as it goes up, it becomes what? It becomes sparse. It becomes sparse as it goes up so that it looks replicable. I'm also going to check for the height of both embellishment on both sides so that they look replicable, so that one will not be fuller than the other. And then I do a check once I'm done. Okay, I have to add a little bit to this and make it quite longer. Yes, so that it measures up with the left one. Amazing. And there we have it. So the next thing I'm going to be doing is I would select my add eraser and lock the layer where I painted the embellishment, and I start erasing. See, when I zoom in, you see what is happening while I'm erasing? It automatically turns into a shimmery detail, like it's shining. Can you see? Yes, that is what it does. So this is the trick. This is the trick. This is how we do it. When you see all those shining, glittering stuffs and all of that, you can actually just use this app to create your own embellishment. Again, this only works in the Sketchbook Autodesk Pro version. Yeah, this only works in the Sketchbook Autodesk Pro version. You can always import your own brush that looks like this, by the way, and you don't have to do this app. But if you have the Pro version, this works like magic. Yes, it works like magic. So once I am done with that, I duplicate that layer where I have the embellishment, and the one on top I make it add. The blending option, I come back to add and see what it does for me. It automatically makes it brighter, and then I merge them together. I duplicate again and make it add to make it brighter, and I can repeat the process as much as possible to achieve the level of brightness that I want. So next I select the sparkle brush, and then I select white, and then I create sparkle. Yes, there's a sparkle brush in your app. Yes, whichever app you're using, there's a sparkle brush there. So I select it and I create sparkle. I determine where I want to have sparkles, and then I use pencil, so I light the sparkle so it looks like it's really sparkling. You see that? That is the trick. It's as simple as that. Yeah, I look for another place to place my sparkle. Yeah, and I go back to the sparkle brush right there, and I decide, okay, I want to put it on the left sleeve, because again the embellishment is sparkling. So yeah, so I use my pencil to highlight that as well. I go back to my pencil and use it to highlight it so that the sparkle really looks like sparkle. Yeah, and that's it right there. See, I had to zoom in so that you see this properly, so it looks like sparkle right there. So I would use the same pencil to create studs, like earrings, studs for the croquis, and then I think I would love to put sparkle on the left stud. So I use the same process. I go to my sparkle brush, can you see it right there, using the same white color, and then I drop my sparkle. You see, I think that's too big. I reduce the size. I drop my sparkle. Right, that's quite big as well. I still reduce the size a bit, and then drop my sparkle, and then drop a more shiny one. Now I go back to my pencil, again the same process, and then I drop the highlight for the sparkle, so it looks like it is really sparkling. I reduce the opacity of that pencil. It's looking too bright. Yes, so that's perfect now, like that, and then I have that. So ladies and gentlemen, we have our embellished male jacket. See you in the next class.